I want to make this video for anyone that is feeling frustrated or depressed and can't seem to trust life. This video will be how can we learn to trust and surrender and have faith in life, in the greater life, life that is greater than us, in God, the universe, whatever your denomination, whatever your relationship to it. I know you have some relationship to it, to this intelligence that permeates the fabric of our existence, that is inseparable from who we are, that brought us here, that is why we're here and will take us further along. You probably have some relationship to it, as you are currently. But how can we learn to cultivate a more valuable relationship with it? How can we remind ourselves that we are not at the mercy of some, or trying to gain the blessing or good graces of some anthropomorphized tit-for-tat vengeful God who has favorites? Instead, how can we come into remembrance that we're not at the mercy of this greater entity? We are in relation to it. And how can we decide to have that relationship be defined by gratitude, love, praise, reverence on both sides? As we know, reality is a mirror to our psyche. Whatever we are aware of being is how our perception is shaped. Reality sort of bends and shimmies in accordance with our awareness, our identifications, our beliefs. And they really are one and the same thing, mind and matter, mind being primary and matter being the harder, denser, crystallized form of mind. And our minds currently operate in time-space, so we perceive a difference, we perceive a time lag, so it seems like mind and matter are separate, but they're really not. They're not opposed. They're just different stages on a scale, and they are one and the same thing. And we know this, especially if you're watching my video, you are cultivating a greater understanding with this truth. And yet, oftentimes, even those of us who are on these very spiritual, conscious paths still find ourselves at odds with our reality. We don't like what is happening, whether it's to us or to the greater group or society that we belong to. We would not have done this consciously, so we resist it. We begin to struggle against it. We think we know better. Either we very actively, physically fight against it and we try to change it, or emotionally and mentally we reject it, we deny it. We cannot accept for even a moment the possibility that maybe this is useful, maybe this is needed, maybe this is somehow meaningful to the evolution of our individual souls or to greater life. We don't even stop to acknowledge for a moment that maybe there is rhyme and reason to it. We dig our heels in, we deny it, we say we know better. This should not have happened. And this is a fine stage to be at. If this is where we find ourselves, there is certainly value to identifying the principles and the values that are important to our own soul and to standing up for them. There is value to having sacred rage. However, I find that this stage is not sustainable. It has an expiry. We can get very enraged and annoyed with whatever's happening that we don't like. We can huff and puff for a while. But eventually we come to realize that our huffing and puffing is doing nothing to change the very thing that we have so much resistance to. And then some of us may get depressed. Depression is really just inwardly turned anger and frustration that we no longer have means to exact externally, so we turn it internally and it has nowhere to go and it festers like this rotten pit inside of us. And depression, of course, is a very dense, sluggish energy. So then our reality begins to mirror this dense and sluggish energy and nothing much is changing. We're sort of stuck. It is sort of like quicksand, and I get it. It can be very hard, especially when the outer reality starts to mirror that. So maybe you lose your employment, maybe your relationships fall apart. I'm making this video to perhaps provide some inspiration for how we can find a crack in between these varying states of desolation and desperation, and perhaps shimmy through it and drop back into this gorgeous river of life. And then also, perhaps, find our surfboards and stand up on them again and begin surfing the river of life, which is when it really gets fun. And I don't know if anyone has ever actually surfed a river, but for the cosmology of this video, we are denoting rivers as things to be surfed. And this river is always flowing, and all we need to fall, to drop back into this flow is really already within us. It's really not something that you have to look for externally. It's a big secret they don't want you to know, but we'll get into that later. Okay, I'm back with the microphone. I hope that wasn't too bad. Within manifestation, especially law of assumption, we're taught that we are the creators of everything, and this can create a very toxic hyper-responsibility micromanagement of life, where one feels that one has to create every effect and result they want, and if something happens that we did not intend, we start to think, how did I create that? This actually creates the exact opposite of what any spiritual journey or any journey into the world of manifestation should be creating. It creates hyper responsibility and taking everything personally and making it mean something about us. So this didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Well, I guess I wasn't aligned enough. I wasn't doing the work enough, which really is just another regurgitation of the I'm not enough limiting belief. I'm sure some of you have experienced how exhausting it can be to feel like we are responsible for every little thing in our lives. It can be very damaging to the psyche. You're not supposed to be doing anything enough. You're supposed to be being who and what you want to be. You're supposed to be changing how you identify, which then changes your perception and ripples out into your reality, and reality echoes it back to confirm your new identity to you. But you're not in a rush. When you become the person that you want to be, you're no longer waiting for reality to change because you've already generated that internal experience and no longer depend on external evidence. Now, if you are in, or if you ever have been in the more broader, general spiritual community, there's generally this thought or axiom that is taught, which is that everything happens for a reason. Let go, trust divine timing, everything happens for the highest good of all beings. Now, this is actually a very healthy mindset, and it is a more productive mindset than thinking that we are hyper responsible for creating everything and then feeling guilty when we create something we don't like. But where this mindset falls short is that it's a little too passive. Some people, they begin to accept that everything happens for a reason, there is divine timing in all things, can become overly passive. They stop taking action. They shy away from doing the internal work of examining the constitutions of their minds and how that is rippling into time-space, and resist the more difficult and painful aspects of the spiritual journey, which are actually alchemically necessary for the steps of distillation, separation, fermentation, dissolution that are necessary for the soul to grow. Become very, very clever about your mind. We have to engineer the most productive mindsets. Otherwise, we're falling victim to our own minds, and that's transcendable. We can transcend that. I'm not advocating for giving it all up to divine timing and not striving or taking any action. I'm advocating for striving and taking action and knowing that no matter what happens, it is good. Now, perhaps good is not the right word here, but it is full to the brim with meaning. It is useful. It is purposeful. This is the most beneficial mindset that you can have, that will elevate you higher than your highest heights, and it will save you when you're drowning. There is so much we can control in life. Indeed, we can control far more than we are ever consciously aware that we can. There's always more that can be achieved with greater awareness, right? And while we can steer the helm of our ship in whatever direction we want, there's so many possibilities in life. And when we become adults and are self-sufficient, we can pretty much do whatever we want. There are still so many things that we could never control, nor should we want to. Every single little wave of the ocean, how the ship is being held together and not falling apart. Who positioned the stars that guide us at night? I'm really going for it with this ship analogy. I hope you don't mind. It's my Pisces moon talking. All these tiny little things that are constructed and maintained and kept working in perfect harmony by this perfectly harmonious, greater intelligence than us. And it's through the cultivation of gratitude and reverence and praise and respect for this intelligence that we begin to develop a very reciprocal relationship with it. It's only ever us who divide ourselves from the rest of existence by over-identifying with the ego, by thinking we know better, by thinking that we're somehow more special than the rest of all that is. We start to get identified with the character that we're playing and we think, no, I know better. I know about this thing. And that's a fallacy, really, because you never really know anything. There's always so much more to be understood about any given perspective. Over-identifying with the ego, with the character that you're playing, takes you out of unity with the rest of all that is. Now, don't get me wrong, the ego is very, very useful, and we're going to engineer how to use that properly as well. But when you really identify too much with this little ego, you start to feel like you're this singular, isolated being that has to fight for your survival. You have to fight for your fair share in this unfair world. Carve out your little portion, when really the whole world is running and rushing, ready to meet you where you're at with whatever you need. And I don't mean that just in the literal sense with how, if you think about it, our bodies are being kept in pretty good working order without us consciously thinking about it. And luckily, if we're lucky enough, we have pretty good food fairly consistently. I don't mean it just in that sense. I mean it also in the metaphysical sense of whatever you ask for, whatever experience you choose to experience in this current incarnation is available for you, and life will rush towards you to deliver it. And what is that Bible quote? Do not be afraid to ask largely, for it is your Father's wish to grant you the kingdom. You choose what you want, and I promise you, you can get it. But there are some lessons for you to learn along the way, lessons that are probably a lot more valuable than this thing that's the carrot on the stick for you to get. But you don't know what lessons you have to learn until you've learned them. When you were in school as a child, did you tell the teachers what to teach you? When you were growing up, did you tell the cells in your body how to grow? You do not know what is left for you to learn. You do not know in what ways you will evolve further and when it is time for you to evolve. So you begin to trust. You begin to trust every happening of your life, the good and the bad, as meaningful and purposeful and useful. No matter how hard you try to be in control and to steer, to designate, to decide, there is still this force that is keeping your heart beating and that is keeping the birds in the air and spinning the earth and changing the seasons. There is a flow. There's always an undercurrent of flow waiting to meet you beneath your resistance to what is here and now. It's in the recognition of, okay, God, okay, universe, I wanted this thing and yet you took me here and I don't know why, but I trust that it's for the best. That's the secret to life, really. Are you ready? I'm going to drop it. I want you to write this down, actually. I want you to write this word down and I want you to revisit it through all the chapters and processes of your life. Equanimity. Not being overly joyful and happy and high all the time, because that's simply unrealistic while we still live in this plane of duality. But also not being overly cynical, not falling for the trap of thinking, I have to control everything. Well, I have to do this in order to earn that. And if I don't do it this way, this means this about me. It means that I failed or that I don't deserve it. I didn't earn it. I'm not good enough. And this is not a fallacy only for people who know about manifestation. People who don't believe in manifestation at all can also frequently fall for this, where they simply see themselves existing in a highly mechanistic universe where there is no sense, no meaning, no harmony, no birds singing in the background. There is simply them fighting against all of this entropy, fighting to carve out their fair share. It's not really how it is. When you cultivate a constant communication with God, when you can learn to be in constant relation to this thing that loves you more than anything, you are awarded with the greatest peace that there is. And peace, my friends, is really just power. And I'm telling you, this is a practice, this is a muscle you have to train. You can't just watch one video and decide, okay, I accept the way things are in my life. You have to do this daily. You have to anchor it with daily rituals. And don't you think I have plenty of rituals for when I forget? I do have to check myself time to time to surrender and to stop struggling, because it is only in the surrendering to what is here and now that the avenue opens up for us to create something different. There is this concept that everything that happens is absolutely perfect for something. Now, whether or not this is objectively true, it is far more beneficial to accept this belief and to really drill it into your mind. It would behoove you a lot more and accelerate you on your maturation process to believe that everything that happens is perfect for some purpose. So let's say that you get angered, you are very angry. Well, perhaps that anger is perfect fuel for transmutation into higher emotions and higher states. Or perhaps this anger is the perfect moment for you to represent your inner principles and fight for what you believe is right. Or perhaps it's the perfect moment for you to practice your self-mastery and not let the anger consume you. When you disagree with the way things are, you are denying them and rejecting them from yourself. Instead, you should accept everything as meaningful, because if you think about it, all of your growth in the past happened by some impetus. There was some discomfort, some tension that acted as the impetus for you to grow. So all of your past complaints were actually incredibly meaningful to the story of your life. And also, if you think about it, your life is your own. So you have to love it, because everything that happened made you who you are. And who else is going to love your life if not you? And who else's life are you going to love if not your own? Embrace yourself. Embrace the totality of yourself. Every experience that made you, even the difficulty. I promise you, when one day you leave this body and you leave this life, you will look back upon it with such fondness and hold each little thing that shaped you so dear. You will want to just hold it so dear, I promise. You know, all of the disdainful things you've been rejecting, whether that's someone that really hurt you, a friendship that ended, someone that betrayed you, some terrible way that you were treated in the workplace or taken advantage of, all of this still needs to be integrated into the being of who you are. And I understand that this is difficult, and I'm not invalidating your pain. I'm not saying that these things were inherently good. I understand that this could be a little triggering for those who have gone through grave trauma, and I don't mean to trigger anyone. I mean to just suggest a different perspective on the things that have hurt us, that will bolster us, that will strengthen us in moving forward and becoming more resilient individuals. And like with anything in life, everything is dual-sided in this plane of duality. So perhaps you recoil at me saying the word resilience because you feel so disdainful that you had to go through trauma and you had to develop resilience because you didn't even ask for resilience. Why was that necessary for you, right? But resilience also is softness. Resilience also is wisdom. Everything in this plane that we exist in is the opposite as well. So in developing resilience, you soften as much as you harden. I did my first Temazcal a few months ago. If you don't know what that is, it's a sweat lodge. You are placed under quite extreme conditions for a few hours where you're very hot. And your ego mind has no choice but to quiet down because you're in survival mode. So your ego is gently brushed aside and your heart is cracked open. And our hearts get closed with all these stories and narratives that we tell ourselves that we think are protecting us. Really, they're harming us. So I had this beautiful experience in the Temazcal, and I felt such profound gratitude for having a body that has all these cool functions it can do, and for existing on this planet that loves me so much, and for every color that I can perceive on the color spectrum that are so beautiful, and for every little fractal experience that I get to enjoy. I just had so many thank yous coming out of me. And I found myself thinking about some friendships that ended in the past few years or the past few months. I've had some pain. I've had some friends that I thought would stay in my life forever that I loved very deeply, and I have found myself being unable to let go and move on. Found myself thinking thoughts like, well, this shouldn't have happened, you know, and I was in the right, and then blah, blah, blah. And in the middle of this Temazcal, these people were coming to my mind, and I was simply grateful for them leaving. I started saying, thank you for leaving. I don't know why you did. I don't intellectually understand why you had to go, but you went, so you had to go. So thank you. Thank you for leaving. Thank you for leaving. And such peace entered me. I could find acceptance and forgiveness because I understand that since it happened, it had to have happened for whatever reason. for a life that is greater than us. It made sense, even if it doesn't make sense to me now. And please remind yourself of all the times life knew better than you did. I went through a very strong example of that, especially in the past few months, where something was sort of removed out of my life without me expecting that at all, and I was really annoyed because I really like this thing. And then there's some ladies chanting in the background. I hope that noise isn't disturbing. And then the thing that came to replace the void of the thing that was taken away was not 3 times, not 10 times better. Better so much in every way. I have no words for how much better it was, and it was such a humbling lesson of okay, I don't always know best. Life, you knew better this time. Maybe you always do, but at least this time you did. Our cultures are obsessed with removing things that bother us. But what if what is painful is not only meaningful, but valuable? When you train yourself to regard your life with an open mind, you are enriched rather than impoverished. There is a message in your illness. There is actionable steps to be found within the regret. There is actionable growth within your depression. Depression is your soul screaming at you for attention. And previously, you had not known how to listen to it. And so it brought you to this state for you to develop a listening ear for your soul, to learn how to hear it, to be in harmony with who you really are. So listen to it. Because when you listen to your soul, you're not only listening to your soul, you're listening to the world's soul as well, because they are one and the same. It's also beneficial to stop needing life to be a constant linear growth or improvement. Our souls know better than our minds and our emotions and our bodies. Sometimes they dance forward, sometimes they dance back or left or right, or in the dark or in the shadow or in the sunlight. They revisit things that we thought we had already dealt with, that we had put behind us. But sometimes we keep revisiting these things, and it's not because we haven't learned our lesson. It's because it's a process. And whenever I say the word process, I always think about grain being processed. I have this visual of like grain being, I'm not an agriculturist, so I don't know my terminology, but tilled, would you say tilled? Let's say tilled. The grain being tilled until it is ground into a fine powder. It's ground multiple times. It's processed over and over and over and over again. So don't assume that just because you learned one life lesson at 18 or 25 or 28, that that's it. What if you're going to go back and learn it to even greater nuances and varying degrees? What if every time you go back, your soul is processing itself? It's removing the illusions and the untruths that you've taken on in your dormant slumber state. And it's just processing itself, refining to even purer and brighter gold each time. And the process never ends, really, because it can always be more vibrant, fragrant, alive value and gold. And how boring would it be if the process ever ended? By entering into your fate, into your own destiny that belongs to no one else, entering into your emotion, you find a way to move through them rather than fighting them. And through that, you begin to acquire a taste of what life could be, what you could be. You begin to discover more of your preferences, of your likes and dislikes. You begin to develop yourself more. So how do you do this? You practice. It's not a technique. You're developing a relationship with life and with God. It's your own relationship. You tend to it daily, daily, daily. Surrender to the things you cannot control. Surrender to the things you don't wish to control. Submit to life. I love the practice of prostration in some religions. Prostrating, just physically bending down and submitting to life and to God. I find that so beautiful. And it's not a sort of meek, humble, I am lesser than this greater force that animates everything. No, it's a very reverent, very grateful, I understand that there is so much more for me to understand. And I am so grateful for every next new moment that I get a chance to understand more. It's a beautiful relationship with your best friend, really. This intimacy with this greater part of you, this this larger part of your own heart that will always have your best interests in heart, that will always protect you and love you and forgive you. For me, it feels like my best friend. I am my best friend. I feel it in my heart, when I meditate. It's this totally safe coming home, like all is good. I got you, I got me, as we always have done. All different parts of me, the higher, the lower, God, the body. It's a beautiful harmony to sit in. Please note, I'm not advocating for passivity or blind faith in any way. I want you to still take action. I want you to actually push yourself very hard. You have a lot of potential that you are unaware of. But the potential that you are aware of, you probably haven't developed it. And it's so much fun to learn what your body's capable of, what your mind is capable of, how much knowledge can it hold, how many contradictions can it hold, how much love can your heart hold, how much pain can your heart withstand. I'm advocating for seeing everything as a gift and an opportunity. If action is necessary, be decisive and take it, but train yourself to see everything as a gift and an opportunity. Otherwise, the action that you take is littered with fear and anxiety and frustration and, well, you've seen it for yourself. I mean, you can still achieve your objectives like this, but it's not that enjoyable and it's quite taxing on your body and your mind and your emotions. What if instead you took the necessary action with faith and trust and peace? It's kind of like your attachment style in love. Everyone loves talking about their attachment styles in relationships. Well, what is your attachment style to life? Do you have an anxious attachment style? Are you really scared that things might go wrong unless you control everything and you try really, really, really hard and you're constantly asking life to give you reassurance and positive feedback and you're constantly trying to be good for life? Or are you avoidant? Are you so scared of possible failure and rejection that you avoid taking any risks in life? You avoid putting yourself out there. You avoid going for what you really want to do. You avoid daring to think how you could be if you developed your full potential. So you shrink away from life. You dull yourself, you limit yourself, you close your heart, you close your mind. Well, you could be secure. You could have a beautiful, secure attachment style to life. You could trust that life has got you. Life is on your side. Life is on the same team. It doesn't have to prove it to you all the time because you simply know. You walk in that knowledge and that faith. No matter what happens on the surface, you aren't moved. You aren't perturbed because so strong is your connection to this unconditional loving force that you know is inextricably yours. And guess what? In the knowing, I'm in a very mystical village where there's a lot of mystical sounds happening all the time. I hope that trumpet now isn't disturbing you. You learn how to withstand the momentary tricks and illusions and shadows because your faith is so strong. Imagine your life as it is now, but imagine you had the ability, in the face of something disastrous happening, to accept it, to provide yourself the necessary time for grieving, for feeling the emotions, and then still persevering despite it, after it's still loving life, still knowing that life loves you, getting back up on that horse. Let me tell you what happens when you do that. You breathe easier, you breathe more fully, you have less sad days, less frustrated, unfulfilled, depressed days. You are in a dance with life. You dance with it. You dance in harmony with all that is. You are courted by life, and you court it back. It becomes a romance. It becomes the most delicious love story. You learn how to love life back through every single action you take, whether it's every little animal you pet, every friend you embrace and stroke the hair of, every meal you cook, every act you do, you dedicate in praise to this higher intelligence and energy. And it loves you in return. I'm telling you, it will rain blessings on your head. But sometimes our blessings can look scary. It's not only positive things. So remind yourself of all the times life knew better than you. Make your choices. We are agents of choice. How amazing that is. We can choose whatever we want. Set sail for your destination and trust that you will reach it. And you will. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe next lifetime. But if that is your soul's desire, you will reach it. But make peace with everything that you don't want to make peace with yet. Stop resisting the pain, because when you stop resisting the pain, it usually goes away. Once you learn the lesson you're currently at, you're permitted to move on to further lessons. Let's talk about some actionable steps you can do. The first thing, well, it's very personal. It's very personal. This is your own private personal relationship with God, so I really can't tell you much, but I think you should start talking to God, the universe, life. Start some communication, and if you can have it as a ritual, then make it a ritual. But if you can't, communicate with God whenever you have time. It's a direct line. And then other rituals, other practices, they're very simple. You know, it's nothing that you have to buy or really work very hard towards. Spend time in nature, connect with your body, exercise, dance, move intentionally, breathe deeper. I'm not just saying this as like little things for you to barely register. Dedicate yourself. Learn some breathing exercises. Actually do it this time, you know? It's like everyone told you to, and you always said that, yeah, you tried it once or twice and maybe you'll do it again. Do it this time. Commit. Choose a breathing exercise that you do daily, twice a day, you know, morning and night, or once a day, but commit yourself. Eat amazing, nourishing food from the earth and feel very connected to it. Think about the entire process that it had to go through, from seed to harvest to your plate, and offer gratitude to it. Connect to the nourishment that you provide to your body. Feel gratitude for your loved ones, for everything that you have, everything that you don't have, everything that you lost. Feel your feet in the soil, your feet in water, your body in water. Swim. Immerse yourself in the elements. Take some time to just appreciate what is. There is so much that you are already blessed with, but you forget and you become blind to it. Cultivate that inner practice. Sing. Join a singing circle. Join a woman's group or a men's group. Do what they're doing right now. Do some ceremonies. Go to a sweat lodge, to a temazcal. Do some plant medicine. Microdose. But really make these regular things that you do, not just when you remember, but schedule them in. Schedule nature time once a week. Schedule breathing and meditation every single day. Schedule a ceremony a couple times a year or once a month, depending on the ceremony. Or whatever it is for you. Art or whatever personal practice or hobby you have, if done with intention, of course is a spiritual practice. Whatever puts you back into your heart and connects you with the rest of all that is and makes you feel like you are in flow and makes you feel gratitude for existence, for all of existence allowing you to exist, cultivate more of those moments. I think really reverence is the highest feeling that we can feel in these human bodies. So what makes you reverent? What strips you down to only humility and awe? Is it the nightly stars? Is it the moon? Is it music? Is it movement? Find what it is. And sometimes you can start small if your heart has been closed for a while and you've felt disconnected for a while. Sometimes you'll only get that glimpse of that feeling for a second or a few seconds, but if you cultivate it, it will happen more often. And then the things that I mentioned, like the ceremonies, the temazcals, the more extreme things, are really for expediting the process. So if you are finding it difficult to progress with small, little, incremental change, do some ceremonies. Everything is available to you. You just have to let it know that you're also available for it, and then it will come to you. It will show itself to you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving me a place to express myself. Life is on your side. The only side, in fact.